us frame what our why is. So one, I think we would say, like, the optimal environment for life change happens in a small group.
That's so true, yeah.
Like, and so if you don't know Jesus, or if you don't walk with Jesus for a long time, like, the best place for you to learn to grow in your relationship with God is connected with other people. And so we try and create our environments. We try to create the way we do teams. We try and create our groups. We want to get people in midst. We want to get them connected to other people. And so if you're serving or in a group somewhere, like, that's important. I mean, Greg and John, they nail it every week when they preach on Sunday morning, and that's so helpful. But when you actually get in the conversation to go, hey, I hear what they're saying, and now actually how we live that out, then that's where life change really is so significant. And so we believe that.
My name is Tex Rule, and you're listening to the Leading Well podcast. Thank you for joining us today on the Leading Well podcast, where we want to care for your soul, develop your skills, and cultivate groups and teams and communities to do good work, to help you lead well. Well, thank you for listening today. It's kind of odd. I'm not usually the guy who starts these conversations, but the reason today is we've turned the tables on Zach Imboden. We're actually interviewing him today. How are you doing today, Zach?
I'm good. It's kind of fun to be on this side.
Yeah, it's good to have you in a whole different role and capacity.
Yeah, enjoy that seat for a short time.
It's good. This is where we get to pry and ask you the hard questions today. But the truth is you got to lead a training recently, kind of that is, I think, at the heart of everything that is about leadership. I think every leader knows the struggle of, we want to take people from one direction where they are and take them to a new place. What is it that God is leading us to go? So it's not just about staying where we are, but getting to where God wants us to go. And that's a hard challenge. And so you kind of led this entire talk on the word why, because no matter where you want to go, if there's not the heart behind why, you're just walking in circles.
Yeah. It's this is a really bad illustration, and it's bad study of scripture, but excuse me here for a second. But it really is, like, none of us want to be the Israelites wandering through the desert for 40 years. Like, where are we going? I don't know. Like, and there's a whole lot more to that story than what I'm even illustrating in a sense. But there's that sense of, sometimes in leadership, you feel like you're just wandering. You're wandering around the desert going, why do we do what we do? Why are we walking this way? And actually, for that story, like, there's God was disciplining them. There's a whole lot more going to that. But sometimes in leadership, it feels like you're just wandering and going, like, is what we're doing matters? Like, is what we're just doing today just because it's what we've always done? This is what we should do. And that's not the case. We want to be a place in leadership. We want to be an organization. We want to be a church that is laser focused on what we do and why we do it. And because we do. We want to lead people from where they are, whether that's them coming to know Jesus for the very first time, maybe to a place of getting to connected, getting to serve, make a difference in somebody else's life, or turn around and start to lead other people. We want to help move people to a place where they're fully engaged in God's purposes in their lives, and they're fully engaged with doing what God wants to do in their lives, in their own heart and soul as well. And so why is a really big question we ask around here.
That's awesome. And so for us, like you said, as you just said, like, why is what focuses you. It is the laser beam versus the idea of just kind of throwing spaghetti against the proverbial wall there and seeing what sticks. Yeah. And so it focuses you. It's what drives you. It's what makes you say, hey, this is a good idea, but it doesn't fit maybe in this. It helps you to say no to the right things and yes to the right things too. So tell us a little bit more tell us why.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things that I think it's in our team, and I think it's definitely in me. I think therefore it probably overflows to other people. But I think you Tax, I think you would say some of these things. I think our team would say some of these things. I think are really important to help us frame what our why is. So one, I think we would say, like, the optimal environment for life change happens in a small group.
That's so true. Yeah.
Like, and so if you don't know Jesus, or if you don't walk with Jesus for a long time, like, the best place for you to learn to grow in your relationship with God is connected with other people. And so we try and create our environments. We try to create the way we do teams. We try and create our groups. We want to get people in midst. We want to get them connected to other people. And so if you're serving or in a group somewhere, like, that's important. I mean, Greg and John, they nail it every week when they preach on Sunday morning, and that's so helpful. But when you actually get in the conversation to go, hey, I hear what they're saying, and now actually how we live that out, then that's where life change really is so significant. And so we believe that. I think another thing that I believe that shapes a bit of our why. So I'll say unconnected people are one hard thing away from walking away from church, not God. Walking away from the church.
So good. That's such a tough thing too.
It is. And so that frames what we do. It frames what we do and why we do it. And so if somebody is one hard thing away from walking away from the church, like, let's go after them. Let's be proactive. Let's make them a priority. Not more important than everybody else, but we want to be intentional. We're intentional with our time. We want to be intentional with our money. We want to be intentional with people to really go after those who are unconnected in the life of our church. Because that's important, and we want them to know there's a sense of urgency there for us as an organization and as a team.
Yeah, that connectedness, as you're just saying, is such a vital part of, I think, of just anybody. Everyone wants to belong somewhere.
Absolutely.
And so, like, that's one of those huge steps, seeing that that's such a big heartbeat behind our why. That's good.
I think another one, I think it's for us to think like we think steps, not programs. And so for us, like, we have a men's ministry, a women's ministry, we have marriage, we have lots of things going on, but they're really camouflaged in a sense of helping us create steps. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's really our heart. We want to create steps to help people connect with God. We want to create steps to help them connect with one another. We want to help them create steps, hopefully even to connect in their community, where they could be a light in their community as well. And so we think of steps, not programs. We have lots of programs in a sense, if you're just looking at it on the outside looking in, but they really are designed as steps and for us as a church.
That's wonderful, because it's not just creating these one-time things or these events. Everything has a purpose. It has a why, as you just said.
Absolutely.
And so it's moving us somewhere. It's not just keeping us the same.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's awesome to hear.
And I think the last two I just would say that kind of help frame what we do is we really engage the connected. And so if you're connected, if you're at New Life, if you are in a group or in a team or serving capacities, we want to be proactive in helping you grow spiritually. And so there are things we do that are unique if you're engaged. And so we try to really say, hey, if you're giving out and you're pouring out, then we want to especially invest into you. And we just believe that's how Jesus did ministry. Jesus did a lot of that. And our heart here at New Life is not to create more consumers. We want to help. We want to fan the flame of those who are engaged in the life of our church. Because the reality is, we only have so much. Our budget's only so big. There's only so many staff members. There's only so much we can do. Our facility is not huge in a sense. So we want to be really intentional with what we have. And because we only have a finite amount of resources, so we want to be really intentional with what we do.
That's awesome. And I love the phrasing you use of saying we're not going to be spiritual consumers, but really trying to help us all be part of this idea of being spiritual contributors.
Yeah.
And how important it is when you belong, like you literally get to contribute. You get to be part of that family and your values. That's huge.
So let's talk about the why. What do we do? Why we do what we do? So I break these off into three circles, or kind of three columns. The first one I would just call it that new guest. Let me ask you, Tex. I'll turn the tables back on. If you think of a new guest, what questions are they asking when they first walk in? They might have saw our church on a website. They might have saw our church just driving by. They might actually had someone actually might have invited them to come. But when you walk in, if a guest is walking in, what are some things that they're thinking about?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that they are thinking about is just in general, it's just comfort. Is this a place that's going to make me uncomfortable? Is this a place that's going to challenge me? Well, we do want to challenge maybe their thoughts later on in their hearts and their spiritual life, but just to challenge me to step out of my comfort zone, just walking in the building, and putting them on the spot, making them uncomfortable. I'd say another thing that we think new guests would be seeing is children and safety. Is like, hey, if I'm going to leave my child, it's a terrifying thing. And we've all seen this in a place where we've gone to a church and we go to the nursery, drop off our little one, and yet it seems like it's an army of screaming and crying babies, and you're like, and there's like one like older lady that's just running the game, and you're like, oh, that poor lady, I wouldn't want to leave my newborn there. But I think there's a side of like of is this a safe place that my child's going to be safe, and also just engaged and loved and feel that kind of comfort that comes from having a community around them. And number 3, I would just say, I think is this a place we can belong? Is it a place in which that we can connect? It's a place that we can grow together as a family.
I think that last one is really important. And the word you used was can, not am I. But when they walk in, do they feel like they can belong if they chose to? Can they belong here? Do people want me here? Can I belong? is a really important question. And so that's why we do things like a tram ministry, where we have people out there picking people up, because we want people to feel welcome from the very first step when they park in on our campus. That's why we have ushers and greeters, is because we want them to feel like we expect you to come. We're not the party that goes, oh, you showed up, oh, I didn't know you were here. What a horrible feeling that is if you've ever experienced that. Like, oh, I didn't know we were meeting tonight. That's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't come. We want people to feel like they can belong here. And so we have greeters and ushers, and we do, that's why we have people, if they want to text in the very first time, we have Connection Corner. Those are all little things we're trying to do to help people who are walking in for the very first time to say, we want you to belong. We want you here. We're expecting you to show up because we want to serve you well. And so those are really important reasons. Greeters are helpful for anyone who walk. If we have ushers who walk in, people walking late, we help them find their seats, and that we usher everyone. It's not just people who are new. But our heart really behind that is saying we think we want you to belong. We want you to feel like this is a place where you could meet God and meet other people and make a difference in somebody else's life.
And I think you really start touching on this really clearly in there, as you're saying, like, connection and that question of can I belong starts long before they actually enter the physical building. Like, even on the drive over, as they're coming, and as they get out of the car, that's why we have this tram. It's such an intentional why of trying to help open those doors and connectedness. And I love that you even go so far as to share the why, that there's multiple ways in which you're talking about texting in to connect for the first time, or there's a physical location you can connect, because that touches two different people. That's the introvert who came in and says, hey, I'd rather just stay as far away from large groups of people as possible, but I still want to connect. Or at the same time, the person who will talk all day long to you. Like, you have huge intentional things of how we can connect with people from the get-go.
Even in our services, I'm sure if you've been at New Life for more than a few weeks or for a few months or a few years, maybe now, like, you ask, like, why do they keep talking about Connection Corner every Sunday morning? We said that last week. Why do we need to say that? Or now, Ryan, or the last few months, we've did this text thing. Like, we start the service off and we end the service off. Like, if you've been in New Life for a long time, like, you're like, who cares? But we do it because we care about every person who walks in. And for somebody, it's always somebody's first Sunday morning they've walked in, and we don't want to miss them because we care about them. Not because we care, but because God cares about them. And God cares about every person who walks in. God cares about everybody, but we want to especially be intentional with those who are walking in for the very first time.
Right, and that's just, I think, a great example. You're trying to eliminate, like, insider language, and you're trying to help make everyone feel welcome, because it's always awkward when you walk into a place. I know I've had circles of friends when I was growing up that when I walked into these guys who had relationships since they were teenagers or since they were little, and it's like, I don't understand the stories, I don't have half the jokes, the laughs, I'm missing a lot, and I always felt like I didn't belong. And so to help, like, in that kind of setting, we do that with churches, and we are really doing a great job of helping eliminate what does it look like to be an insider here and to say we are all welcome, we're all here. And it might be repetitive, but it helps every single person know what's being discussed, what it is that's talking, and how our hearts connect there.
So when we talk about greeters and ushers and tram drivers, like, man, their role is so essential. It's so important, and their why is that it's somebody's first Sunday, and we want to make sure they feel welcomed and loved when they walk on our campus. And so we're so grateful for the people who make a difference there every week, who show up to be tram drivers and greeters and ushers, and there's so much more than that as well, but those are the key ones that I think of. And so that's kind of that column of new guests.
It's so good. And
then if I move next, the next column I would call them is unconnected people. And so that sense of saying, hey, maybe I've come to New Life a few weeks. Maybe I haven't told anyone. Maybe I'm being invisible. But that people are coming to New Life for some time. They're not just new guests anymore, but nobody knows them. And so that's what we call unconnected people.
Yeah, so when it comes to unconnected people, because this is different than someone who's a first-time person. This is someone who's maybe been a couple times, maybe even using the word I've heard you say, new-ish. And new-ish could even be people who've been 6 months, a year, but they really have never connected. They come in and out on Sunday, but they're not in a group. They're not connected in serving. They don't have that place where they necessarily have that community around them that they lean into. So what are the things that we intentionally work with for them?
Yeah. So if you come back to the Connection Corner, you come to when we connect with someone who came to New Life for the first time, and the thing that we talk about the most, and the things we emphasize the most, and things we talk about the most, and even if you're listening to this, you're included in this conversation, help us do this well, is hey, the best thing you could do, the best step you could take next is say, go to Next. And next is, you've probably seen it, but you're like, what is that? Right now, and we're always talking and tweaking and modifying stuff, but as of right now, it's once a month after each service for a half hour. And so it's like 10:20, I think it is, or maybe it's 10:30 and 12:30. And we meet in the meeting room, kind of in the office area. And it's a half hour for some of our staff members to connect people who are brand new, get to know their story. We ask them about why they're here, what they're looking for, and how we could best serve them. And so we talk about, do you know Jesus? Have you been baptized? Are you connected? Can we help you get connected? Are you serving somewhere? Let's find some places for you to serve. And we just walk through those areas of saying, this is what it means to be fully connected. It means to be engaged in God's purposes here at New Life and God's purposes in your own life, and how important those are. And so Next is really the best thing we send people to. When I forget the numbers right now, but it's like 85, 90%. When somebody comes in Next, the chances of them getting involved somewhere are 85, 90% action after that.
And I love this event that you're talking about. The Next event is huge, I think, for our people, because it's not just about us saying, here are opportunities, here's a flyer, figure it out for yourself. It's a very personal thing, because it's you and other staff members and team members literally sitting down with a small group of people, hearing their stories, hearing what's in their lives, and saying, how can I personally help you get connected? And hearing through what is it their needs are, what are their struggles, what is it that they're wrestling with as they're trying to get connected, because it's not always easy. Trying to figure out, I know family members who have a bunch of kids and trying to figure out that lives and balancing this and sports events, and when do I have time to get in a group, and showing what that looks like for them. It's such a huge opportunity to be able to say that and to help them find those connections. And it makes sense. I love the why behind such a very personal thing.
Yeah, and so that's helpful if you're brand new to New Life, or you've been at New Life for 20 years or 30, 60 years, how long are our church? We would say Next is the best thing you could do. But we fully recognize not everybody is ready or even wants to take that step. And so even though Next is there, we have other opportunities. So, 6 times a year, we'll do big events, 2 men, 2 women, 2 married events. And those are really geared to helping people who are just sitting on the sidelines in a church to say, hey, that sounds like fun. I might want to do that. Or, hey, that sounds fun. That sounds intriguing. That catches my attention. It's something you can invite a friend to. And so we do those large events because we want to help create opportunities for somebody who's just sitting in a row, who's unconnected, that this might be their first step to trying something outside of a Sunday morning experience, worship experience that is really helpful. So we do things like that. We have things like short-term groups because we understand it's scary for me, and I work on staff, and this is my job actually, to sit in somebody's row and then now say, hey, I'm now sitting in a row on a Sunday morning and say, now I'm going to come join you in somebody's house for a small group for the rest of my life. That sounds scary. And so we have things like a financial peace or parenting classes or men's and women's groups to create opportunities for people to experience what it means to be community. Again, those are ministries or programs, you could say, but it goes back to that heart saying, no, we're trying to create steps to help somebody who's just sitting in church on Sunday morning to engage into the life of our church somewhere, to actually engage with their relationship with God more than just what's happening on Sunday morning.
No, and I agree with you. And I love how you even look at the idea of talking about short-term groups as such an intentional part of that process, because as you look at that idea of commitment, like you said, that's scary when you're talking about an indefinite for all time. That's almost getting married again.
Yeah, it's
most people can't commit to a haircut that long. I mean, I know I wrestle with that, let alone shoes or anything else. But then to connect to with this small group of people, what if I don't like them? What if they don't like me?
Yeah.
And to say hey, for the next 7 weeks, 5 weeks, what does it look like to just sit together? And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Say la vie and let's find our next group.
Yeah.
I love that opportunity. And then when it does work, man, keep going, keep growing.
Yeah. So we think of people who are new guests and what are their needs? What do they need? How do we help support them? How do we help them feel like they belong? Because we want them to belong. How do we help unconnected people who are just sitting in church on Sunday morning who don't know what to do? And we say, go to Next. And sometimes that doesn't always work for people. So we provide other opportunities to help connect them. And then we say, okay, maybe you're connected, maybe you're in a group, maybe you're serving on a team. Then you're asking the questions, how do I just grow deeper in my relationship with God? And so we try to provide opportunities and experiences and resources to help you do that. And so, and really what that really means is saying, how do I turn around now, care for other people? And that's really our goal. If you're connected, and the best way for you to grow your relationship with God is to dive in some deeper spiritual disciplines. But also the best thing you could do is turn around and start caring for other people. And so we have opportunities for you to learn and try and experience what it means to care for other people spiritually.
I love that. I love the intentionality behind it. What are some of those maybe opportunities we do to help people care for other people?
Yeah, so we provide opportunities to say, so if you're serving like in ministries, children, students, adults, other places like that, there's always a way to find a few people where you can make a significant difference in. And so our ministries are all geared that way. How many adults could you use right now, Tex, to care for a few kids?
I'll take just about any adult that is willing to love teenagers. Yeah, for sure.
And bring Kim in here. She would say the same thing. Like,
yeah, it's true.
There's, I could probably name about 100 adults in life of our church who could really use somebody to come alongside and love and care for them in a spiritual way. And we'll provide the resources, we'll provide tools, we'll provide the training to help you do that. And we're actually working on more stuff there. But man, one of the best ways for you to grow in your relationship with God is not to make it about you, but start investing in other people. You see that Paul does that so many times in Scripture. You see Jesus pouring into 12 people to make a significant difference. So we want to provide opportunities that you have a place where you feel like you're safe, you're welcome, like you have a place where you can grow in your relationship with God. But then more importantly, then to start turning around and going, okay, who else can I bring into this? Who else can I invest into? Who else can I leave a legacy of my own spiritual life and involvement in?
And I love that, because when you look at the why behind it, it's not just about us as a staff and as a church putting on and leading everything, but it really is about empowering every person that's connected here to own this and own this community and bringing others into that family that is our church.
Yeah. So I think of one guy. There's been one guy who probably a year and a half ago, just was sitting on the sidelines, and he wasn't really engaged. He wasn't really involved. I don't know if he really liked coming to church, to be honest. I think
we all have had those days,
yeah.
For sure.
But when we invite him into community, when we invite him into a relationship to help him to understand who God is in his life in relationship to other people, like what God's doing in his life is pretty incredible. And so he's now starting to turn around and he's loving and caring for other people, and that his ability into transformation to say, for help, that I'm learning more how to be dependent upon God because I'm learning how to lead other people spiritually, is a really significant thing that you can't learn when it's just about you. And to having a consumer, I think you said earlier, to be a contributor, not a consumer.
Yes.
Man, the spiritual application for that in our lives is so significant. And we shouldn't expect, Jesus didn't take his 12 disciples one day and go, hey, I'm praying for you, now you guys are here, now I'm sending you out. Like, he took time and he walked them through some of those trainings and things that were really helpful for those 12. But ultimately, it wasn't out to say, okay, it's just about you 12 now just go enjoy your life and go on vacation. But he sent them out to go. He sent them out to go to care for other people spiritually. And we have opportunities as a church to say, hey, who can I spend my life with? Who can I invest into? And who can I turn around and invest my life spiritually into? So it's a really powerful and really significant moments when you could do those things.
That's incredible. Yeah, it's awesome when we get to see what that actually looks like at much more bigger level, because it's not just, like I said, like regurgitating information.
Yeah.
It's not just coming and taking up a warm body in a seat, just filling a place, just waving a hand at a door.
Yeah.
It really has a why behind everything that we do, hoping that we can make not just new people feel welcomed, not just connecting people, but actually seeing that there is a transformation and ownership that goes and cares for other people in the end.
That's our why.
That's huge. That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing, Zach. I'm excited to be able to kind of go through it. Do you have any last thoughts as we kind of conclude for today?
Yeah, I would say whatever role you are playing in the life of our church, whatever it's from greeters to our welcome team, our first impression team, to ushers, to small group leaders, to Moms Matter table leaders, to short-term group facilitators, like, man, each role is so important. Each role is so critical to what we do. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the people who I get to serve alongside with, who teach me and show me, but their willingness to care for people and to invest in people's lives is incredible. And so so if you, at times you feel like you're just doing your thing, like, man, I just say thank you, because you are playing a critical role in other people's lives, help them grow and connect with God. And also I'd say, like, we're playing the long game here. And just because your role as a table leader, your role as a greeter, like, you play a part in somebody else's life, and to trust God and know that what you do is significant. And you might not ever see the results of it. The times you say hi to somebody every Sunday morning, but it's making a difference. And it's making a difference in other people's lives.
Someone once told me that there is no small roles in the kingdom of God. There is only big acts of obedience. And I think that's really and truly what you're getting to see, is no matter where you are, those of you that are faithfully serving, you're getting to make such huge moments and being obedient to what God's called you to do and to make a difference here in Tucson.
Amen, and thank you.
Thank you for listening to our Leading Well conversation. Our heart is to care for your soul, develop your skills, and to cultivate groups and teams to do good work. And however we can best support you, please let us know. If you found value in this episode or any of our other episodes, we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and many other locations. Most importantly, if this touched your heart or made a difference in your life, share this podcast with anyone you think might benefit from it. I'm Tex Rule.
I'm Zach Imboden.
And thank you for listening.